Hello, and welcome to Things We Said Today, our usually bi-weekly podcast about anything and everything to do with the Beatles, collectively and individually, past, present, sometimes future. We've been off for a little while because Ken's been ill, and we didn't want to do it without him. We've been all champing at the bit to talk about the anthology these last few weeks, but, we wanted Ken here to do it. I'm Allan Kozinn. I'm the author of The Beatles from the Cavern to the Rooftop and Got That Something, How the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand Changed Everything, and co-author with Adrian Sinclair of the McCartney Legacy series, Volume 1 and 2, out now. Volume 3, we just got our contract for, and we're getting into working on that now. And so I'm joined by my esteemed co-hosts, Ken Michaels, who you know is the host of the syndicated Beatles radio show Every Little Thing, and also a co-host of Talk More Talk, and he's got his own YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio, which is packed with Beatles-related interviews. Hello, Ken. How you feeling?
Much better, thanks. I had a really bad virus, which lasted well over a week, and I could barely talk at all. When I did, I sounded like RFK Jr. So I didn't want to,
You didn't want to
torture
scare
everybody
me.
by trying to do a show with you guys. And I did say you could do it without me, you
I
know.
know, but
I mean, it wouldn't. What kind of fun would it be without you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
welcome
Okay.
back.
Thank you
I
for
did
that.
actually make a list here of. No, I'm kidding.
And Darren DeVivo, who has been a force in New York radio for more than 40 years. And you can catch his new show, Noises from the Valley, that's the Hudson Valley, uh, on WKZE 98.1 or 105.9 or at WKZE.com, Friday nights from 7 to 11. Darren is also a co-host of Talk More Talk.
Yes, I am.
Darren?
And hello, everyone. Hi, Alan,
And
Kit,
like our
Ken.
last show, this is actually a collaboration with Talk More Talk because Talk More Talk is Ken, Darren, and Kit O'Toole, who I'll introduce in a second. And Things We Said Today is Ken, Darren, and me. So, they sort of fit together. Um, Kit O'Toole down in the corner here is a podcaster, educator, teaches at Monmouth University, music journalist, and the author of several books, including Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours Through the Beatles' Lesser Known Tracks. Are there lesser known tracks?
Yep. That's another show.
Yeah. And Michael Jackson Fact, All That's Left to Know About the King of Pop. For people my age, that would be Elvis, but
Yeah.
his sort of father-in-law or something. I don't know. Anyway,
I thought that would be
Kit,
Rudy
welcome
Valley for you.
back, and
Oh,
good to have you in the mixed, collaborative, talk more things we were saying.
Talk more about things we said
for
today.
today. That's right. Thank you, Alan. Hi, Ken. Hi, Darren. Always great to be with you guys.
So we're going to talk about the anthology, and we have Ken's news before that. But even before that, Kit went to see Paul in Chicago. Did you go to the very last show of the tour?
Nope. Went to the very first.
Okay.
Went to the very first. Yeah. And it was at the United Center here, which is, the biggest indoor venue that you can play. And I mean, it was a great show. I mean, what a shock, but I mean, it really was a variety of ages. Around me, it was basically like my age and up, but it was still, I saw kids, around buying the merch and that kind of thing. Really enthusiastic crowd. He didn't really change the set list,
No.
not surprising. But I thought he was in good voice. I mean, whatever he's doing on this tour to preserve his voice. You can kind of tell. I mean, there are certain points where you can tell he's saving his voice a little bit, maybe not hitting quite those high notes, maybe talks a little bit, speaks the words instead of singing them, just in little parts, but nothing major. It really, I know we've all seen him do Here Today a number of times, but that was one of the highlights of my show. I thought um, he seemed a little more emotional that night, and when he started, and of course, was going up on that platform, and there was the starry night sky in the background, and I mean, there was like a hush that fell over the whole crowd, and and by the way, that was a sold out crowd. There was just something about it that night that just made it more poignant. I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but he of course did do Now and Then, which was a treat to hear that live. I for the first time, I'd never seen it. But other than that, I mean, it was, essentially his usual show. I like the graphics, by the way. He changed up the graphics a bit for this tour, and they were really great. I mean, they didn't overshadow the performance, but were good compliments, to it. As always, played almost 3 hour show. Never took a sip of water that I saw. 83. How does he do it?
No.
I'm amazed at no bathroom breaks either.
No bathroom. Yeah. Well, that could explain the lack of water.
Well,
Yeah.
you never thought about that.
Something about this tour, there have been excellent video and audio recordings of most of the shows, and like the videos are full length, and they're getting out there. In fact, both Chicago shows are out there.
Yep.
Both Atlanta shows in soundboard. So that's pretty good. Anyway, good. That sounds like fun.
It really was.
It looks like he is. This is the end of the Got Back tour, apparently. Right. Because in his current email newsletter, he says, did you see the Got Back tour? And he talks about it as if it is like, okay, it's a wrap on the Got Back tour. Did you see any of it in these, like, from 22 to 25? Okay. And then he asks, where would you like Paul to go? Where are you? Where would it? And so that sort of indicates that he's planning to go out again. I didn't answer that survey, because I know that he's not coming to Portland. There simply isn't a place in Portland big enough for him to do. Although if he wants to do a small venue in Portland, I could probably recommend some to him.
You could hook him up.
So
we do know he's going to play the UK next year. We just don't know when.
Yeah. You should put the Kozinn household and see if someone gets back to you. Alan, you never know. Paul might be looking for like little homey, intimate little shows to do.
We have a lot of space. He could, and I've even got some guitars.
Yeah, he doesn't have to bring his instruments with him.
Perfect.
How did Help sound to open with it?
It really it is an interesting choice for this tour, and interesting because I will say I really felt like John's presence loomed over much of the show from the very beginning, and Help being a good example of that. I mean, it sounded great. It sounded great live, but I kind of wondered that if part of this was, I mean, I have absolutely zero, knowledge of the inner workings of this tour, but I just think it just was interesting how, starting the show with that, and then of course the I Got a Feeling virtual duet, Here Today. I mean, it was just interesting how John was present, in a way, throughout the show, and from the very beginning.
Interesting. It is interesting to see what he chooses to open his shows with, because he has changed that a bit over the years. with A
Hmm.
Hard Day's Night and 8 days a week. Um, so you never know what he's going to open with, but we're
Yep.
drawing hard.
First.
This was a yeah.
Mhm. Oh, I was just gonna say the first time I saw him in December '89, opened with Figure of Eight. Yeah, I will never
Yeah.
forget that.
Okay.
Hmm.
So that was the last time for you, Kit?
And so that was the first time. Yep, first time I ever saw him.
First time, sorry.
Yep, that was the first time. Yep.
Okay, we should point out that when he played in Hamilton, Ontario, he added Mull of Kintyre
Mhm.
to his set list. And that was the first time he did it since his one-on-one tour in 2017. And in Montreal, he added Michelle.
Yeah. Mhm.
So once in a while, he'll sneak in a surprise.
Mhm.
I can just hear Steve Marinucci right now. He never does Mull of Kintyre in the United States. It's
Wish
always
he
somewhere
did.
else, and it's true for that matter.
Mhm.
So he should at least do girl school.
Yeah, let's make
Okay,
sure we suggest that to him.
well,
Yep.
on to the news. Let's have some news, Billy.
All right. On December 1st, the animated short For War Is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko, premiered on John Lennon's YouTube channel. The film, as you know, won an Academy Award for Best Animated Short. And following the premiere, Sean Ono Lennon, who's the executive producer and writer, appeared with Dave Mullins, the director, and Brad Booker, the producer, for a Q&A on the making of the film. And at the same time with this film, they are raising donations for the charity War Child. The John Lennon documentary Borrowed Time, which covers the last decade of John's life, was shown at a special screening at the AMC Lincoln Square Movie Theater in New York City on December 8th, the anniversary of his death. And before the movie started, there was a Q&A presented by our own colleague, Ken Womack. And that was with the film's director, Alan G. Parker. Also on that day, the film was made available for screening on streaming, I'm sorry, on Fandango and Amazon Prime, and it was released on DVD and Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is supposed to have a director's cut of the film with much more material. After all this, the film will be streamed on additional platforms beginning January 13th. And don't forget, we did our own interview with Alan G. Parker here a few months ago for this documentary. We'll have to talk to Ken and find out what that Q&A was like.
Mhm.
So Borrowed Time is out now on
Yes,
Blu-ray. Bingo.
DVD.
Dear Santa. Okay.
Also, I forgot to write this in here, but since we have Alan with us, there will be a six-part BBC documentary on the Beatles' time in Hamburg. And little did we know, Alan is a consultant on this. So is there anything you can tell us about this, about in
Okay, it's
particular?
it's six parts, deals with the 1960 and 61 visits, so they can have a second season of it, which I think they're thinking of, but I guess it depends how this goes. I've just been reading the scripts. They're written by someone named Jamie Carragher, who is a really talented young guy. I mean, he may be older than I think he is because, looking at his resume now, it's like he's was already a writer on Succession and a number of other things. I mean, to me, he seems like he's in his 20s, but he knows his Beatles stuff down cold. I mean, I'm reading these scripts. There are no, silly mistakes or, bad guesses or anything. I just, sometimes have a really hard time coming up with something useful to say about them. Uh,
Hmm.
but so he's really good, and it's a German company making them, and the BBC picked it up for Britain. I don't know what the story here will be, but I can't wait to see it because it's really well written, and he's really fleshed out the characters in a very believable way, very consistent with who the guys are, and yeah, looking forward to it. So I don't know what else I can say really.
Do they have any projected release date for this?
I don't know. I don't even know if it's been cast yet, to tell you the truth.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I'm just reading scripts. I'm not that involved in the, day-to-day business of it. But uh, well, I could say it won't be before 2026, but that leaves only about 2 weeks.
That would be a miracle getting it done that quickly, but
Yeah, right.
yeah. It's kind of interesting because a mutual friend of ours, Simon Weitzman, just finished doing a documentary called No Hamburg, No Beatles.
Right.
And I think it's out already. I'm not totally sure. Does
It's
any of you guys know this?
Oh, is it?
No.
It might be we'll have to contact Simon because I know it's going to have the same thing as the Miss Odell film that he worked on.
Hmm.
And it should be on a lot of streaming channels, but we'll get in contact with him and find out more about that.
Mhm.
Now, one of the most long-awaited books on the Beatles is now being released, coming from our friend Piers Hemmingson, the
Mhm.
authority on the Beatles in his native country of Canada. He released the book in 2015, The Beatles in Canada, The Origins of Beatlemania, which covered their history up through late 1964, and the new book, The Beatles in Canada, The Evolution, 1964 to 1970, picks up where they left off, and not only covered the success of their records there, but also how the Beatles influenced young Canadians, whether it be through fashion, religion, politics, and community. Many musicians from the 60s and 70s from Canada share how the Beatles were an influence on them. And if you're interested in purchasing the book, you can do so at the website, thebeatlesincanada.com. And Pierce told me that for this month of December, if you live in North America and you want to order it, the postage is free for
Oh,
December. Okay.
right.
Mhm. Thanks to our friend John Bazzini for first telling me about this. Speaking of our colleague Ken Womack, he is collaborating on a two-book series with Scott Fryman of the Deconstructing the Beatles series for an in-depth study of every Beatles song. The first book to be titled The Beatles in Red, 1962 to 1966, Inside the Fab Four's Musical Artistry Song, which has a release date of September 3rd next year. The book covers each song's origins, how they were written, how was the song transformed in the studio, what instruments were used, and how that impacted the song's arrangement. It's another great team there. Ken Womack and Scott Fryman working on what looks to be a very worthwhile book. No doubt the follow-up would be The Beatles in Blue, I would
Mhm.
think. Again, thanks to John Bazzini for that. A book just released in the UK, You Won't See Me, where the Beatles ghosted Imelda, all about their problems in the Philippines. It is written by David Guerrero, and it's available through Amazon UK. Thank you, John Bazzini. Half the news comes from John. Got to give him all the.
He's the best, really is.
Variety magazine came out with a list of the top 100 comedy films of all time, and A Hard Day's Night ranked number 41.
Mm,
Thanks
pretty
to
good.
Bruce Buny for that. Friday
What,
music.
not John Bazzini?
Mhm.
Not,
John Bazzini
not
didn't say
no.
that?
Oh, he didn't.
He's slipping up.
I think so. Got to get him on this show or on
We
my
should,
show or
yeah.
something. The record label, Friday Music, in their vinyl series, they have Ringo's Choose Love coming out. It'll be on ruby red vinyl, the first time ever on vinyl. And that's due out January 28th. You can pre-order that now. You might remember
Can I
the.
make a comment about that? I don't mean to interrupt you, Ken. Can I make a comment about
Sure.
I ordered the vinyl two, I think it was two different vinyl pressings of colored vinyl pressings of Live at Soundstage, Ringo, and Julian's Velotte in February. They still have not come.
Wow.
They never have them in stock. I don't know what their issue was, what's going on there. So, and I know other people have had some problems with ordering from Friday Music. So just a little warning about that.
Yeah.
If anyone else has had some issues,
Yeah.
because
Let us.
I've been it's like becoming a monthly tradition. Let me go complain to Friday Music with an email
Hmm.
Wow.
about the where these items, and they don't have them in stock. They're not available. They'll be in stock next week. Next week comes, nothing happens. Plus, they also did Ringo Rama,
Right.
and I'm holding off ordering those because
Maybe they can come up
you
with a health plan.
know. So
Let's start mixing
ju-
politics into the show.
Yeah, there you go.
just a warning, just a warning. And if anyone from Friday Music is watching, I want my records.
Yep.
If anyone watching has had an issue with them, let us know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
We can pass it along. Now, you might remember that 5 years ago, because you all remember everything I've said in every newscast. 5 years ago, there was a stunningly beautiful cover of Paul McCartney's song Waterfalls. It was by the duo of Lindsay and Isaac, and Lawrence Juber contributed his magnificent guitar playing to it. Well, the recording has just been remastered and remixed, and it will be available on most streaming services. Actually, it says here December 10th, so it already is. Okay? Again, that's Lindsay and Isaac with their version of Waterfalls. Um, Not the greatest news to tell you about chart performance here, folks. The compilation Wings, which came out recently, debuted at number 68 on Billboard's Top 200. Now it's off the charts completely.
Oh.
Also, the Beatles Anthology debuted at number 48, and that's off the charts. The Anthology Collection debuted at 113. That's off the charts
Wow.
already. Um, But there's some good news. The Beatles' Abbey Road album is at 113 on the charts, and Wonderful Christmas Time is on the singles charts at number 33. But not
Nice.
Happy Christmas.
Hmm.
Not yet, anyway. All right. We have to send out happy birthday wishes to Pete Best, who turned 84 on November the 24th. And speaking of Pete Best, here's something ironic. We all know about the Sam Mendes series of docu-films on each of the four Beatles. That's due out 2028. Leanne Best, the niece of Pete Best, is going to be one of the stars in the biopics.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Yeah.
Did she and Mimi or something?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Okay.
I
We'll have to
thought I
try and
read
look
that,
that
but
up.
it could be someone else.
All right. Graham Goldman has announced he will have a new album coming out, and Ringo will be on it, along with Brian May and Hank Marvin. As soon as we find out more, we'll let you know about that. Madeline Baccaro's most excellent book on Yoko Ono, In Your Mind, The Infinite Universe of Yoko Ono, has just been made available as an ebook. And if you'd like to order that, just go to the website inyourmindbook.com. Billy J. Kramer is reporting that his latest single, Go On Girl, is on the UK Heritage Chart, so specialized these days,
Yeah.
at number 19 and climbing. Polestar came up with a list of the top 25 most popular touring artists of the millennium, and Paul McCartney came in at number 22.
Hmm.
Can you figure out who was the number one touring act of the millennium? This is worldwide.
Taylor.
No.
No.
Not Taylor Swift.
In fact,
Um,
she's not in the top three even.
Wow.
ABBA.
How about that?
ABBA.
Who?
No,
No.
I'm kidding.
Number one.
Uh, wait, number one would be touring act. 20. It's a Coldplay.
You're good.
Am I
Wow.
right? Am I
Yes, you're
right?
right. It's
Oh
Coldplay.
wow, nice. Okay.
U2 was number two. Ed Sheeran was number three. This is based on number of tickets sold.
Mhm.
Uh,
Interesting.
All right.
That's
Almost done here, folks. The new December issue is out of Record Collector magazine, and it's devoted entirely to George Harrison After the last 2 years, they had one issue on John in December, 2 years ago. Last year it was Paul McCartney. It takes a look at his solo career in depth from 1968 to 2002. And they will have an assessment of Dark Horse Records. Radio Times film critic and record collector treasure Terry Staunton looks at handmade films. Staunton, sorry. Morecambe and Wise biographer Louis Barth explores George's lifelong love of humor. There's also a comprehensive 9-page UK discography, as well as assessments of all of George's studio albums, features on his compilations, singles, key rarities, and lots of lovely pictures and much, much more. It is now officially out. I'm going to try to hunt that down.
What was the guy's name that you just mentioned?
Which one? There's Terry Staunton.
No. Barf?
Lewis or Barfy.
Too. I thought I heard barf too.
Well, it's Barfe.
Oh, it's probably, yeah.
Barfy.
Or it's Barfay. Could be Barfay.
I was just going to let that go, but you know.
No, you never. Those things never get by me.
I know.
Remember, I'm 10-year-old with the humor.
Mm-hmm.
Barf, I hear.
Might not hear anything else I talk about, but you'll pick up things. And finally, Abbey Road on the River is happening once again, May 21st through the 25th at Big Four Station Park in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Special guests will include Peter Noon, Mickey Dolenz, the Cowsills, Lawrence Juber, and lots of Beatles tribute bands from all around the world. You want to find out more information, go to their website, which is arotr.com.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to that, Kit?
And so, no, not as of now, but I'm thinking about going in the future.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard that you might be a guest there.
Nope.
Okay. So
just a rumor.
The rumor, very good.
Yep.
That's all the news I have. That should be enough. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Darren, you had something for us on a Badfinger Live CD.
Yes. And also Ringo, look up.
Okay.
Right. Rolling Stone magazine has been putting out their year-end lists by genre, and they just put out their top 25 Americana and country album list. Best 25 albums of 2025. And coming in at number 25 is Look Up, Ringo's album. So would have liked to have been a little higher, but hey, you know, at least it got acknowledged. And Rob Sheffield wrote a nice little blurb about the album. So that's number 25, according to Rolling Stone, top country and Americana albums of the year. Look Up from Ringo. And that's for the CD Ken was just talking about. There's a new Badfinger live album. Now, it does sound like it sounds like a solid bootleg recording. It's not like it's pretty good sound, not great, but it is. The estates of the four members of the band are involved, so it's not a bootleg release. It's from Renaissance Records.
Okay.
Oh, and look at that. I have it right here. And it keeps disappearing. It's called Live at the Cambridge Performance Center in Cambridge, Massachusetts, recorded March 31st, 1974. So this is approaching the end, unfortunately. Joey Molland, of course, would leave later in that year. And 13 songs, and it's stuff pretty much evenly distributed what they perform between the No Dice, Straight Up, Ass, and Badfinger albums, which I guess March. I don't know if Wish You Were Here was out yet. March 74. But nothing from Wish You Were Here, and a cover of Dave Mason's Only You Know and I Know puts a wrap on the album. So it's kind of hard to see it with the glare, and I'm gone. Yep. Hey, look at that. That's cool.
Wow.
I'm gone.
It looks a lot better now. Okay.
That's like, what was it, in the second Anchorman movie when Steve Carell's character, the weatherman, his legs disappear on the green screen, and he freaks out because his legs are gone. So yeah, it's here. So there's a kind of a bit of it. It's on Renaissance Records. And I think, Ken, you had mentioned this a couple of weeks back, maybe a couple of months back, but I just picked up a copy of Natural Gas's album, which
Okay.
you forget what kind of a supergroup they were. You got Joey Molland from Badfinger, Mark Clark from Uriah Heep, Jerry Shirley from Humble Pie, and Peter Wood, who was with Sutherland Brothers and Quiver. They did one album as Natural Gas in '76. Felix Pappalardi produced it, and it is now out on Iconoclastic Records on CD, which I think is the first time for a CD for this album.
Okay.
So it's somewhere over there. It's here, and you'll be able to see your copy when it comes in the mail.
Oh,
And
there
then
you
I
go.
got this. This is the new Ivies.
Oh, yes.
The continuation. This is Anthology 5. They wanted to time this so that when Anthology 4 came out, their Anthology 5 would. So maybe people might be thinking, let's get them both together.
Yeah.
They're getting like Chicago, numbering them now. Band Chicago.
No Roman numerals.
Oh,
No. Okay.
see, yeah,
Yeah.
Chicago was fancy.
Okay, so speaking of anthology,
Yes.
let's have a little swirly thing, and then on the other side of it, it'll be us talking about anthology. We thought we would focus mainly on volume 4 of the audio set and episode 9 of the video, although all of the video has been messed with, and I'm saying that in a non-value way, although a lot of people have issues with it, and some people think it's just great. I can say, however, just that if you're comparing the DVDs to the streaming version is about 2 hours and 20 minutes shorter. So that's how much they've cut out of it. My personal theory is that when it comes to Beatles, less is never more.
Mm.
More is more. It's totally intuitive. And I think that really, if you're going to revamp something and reissue it, that's an opportunity to add things, not an opportunity to remove things. So that's just a general comment about the full series.
Can I just ask, has anyone heard why they did shorten it?
Probably so
I
Disney can have 1 hour episodes.
That's probably part of it. There were also some parts I think that were cut out that were seen as not politically correct in
Well,
today's.
those were like a few seconds at a time.
Yeah.
Like for instance, in the scene where they're talking about Magical Mystery Tour, and George is talking about John's dream of shoveling lasagna onto Aunt Jessie's plate. He said the fat woman, and they deleted just the word fat.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and there was something else. Oh,
Was.
the French George. Again, it's George. George
Yeah.
seems to be the censored one now. He talked about uh, playing in Paris, and he said, we went and we're expecting all these beautiful girls, and it was really just a bunch of sort of vaguely gay boys, and they took out vaguely gay, and he said it was just a bunch of boys.
Yeah.
It's a little different, I mean, and also, gay is not a slight, I mean,
Right.
so why is that being cut? I don't know. They should just leave everything alone, just upgrade the quality, and that's all we need you to do. I mean, Peter Jackson had talked about how they also wanted to change the focus to be a little more on the studio recordings, and less on the live performances. But there's still tons of live performances in this because that's what they have film of.
Yeah.
They didn't tend to film all their sessions. That would have been great. But They didn't, so a lot of what they added about the recording sessions came from those little documentaries that came out with the 2009 remasters. So, not a lot new. And there
Yeah.
were some things, if you really want to talk about emphasize the studio sessions. I mean, one thing they did that was nice is they added John's demo for Yellow Submarine, which
Yes.
we didn't have in 1995, and so that was a nice little touch
Mm.
to put in there. But what they also could have done, they had an opportunity because we've all seen the so-called anthology director's cut, which is a bootleg
Yep.
of an early edit of Anthology.
Mhm.
In that, they talked about the original attempt to end A Day in the Life with people singing Om. That
Right.
would have
Mhm.
been a nice thing to add there.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, but that doesn't matter. It just is an interesting idea that they tried. It's on now. It's on the Sergeant Pepper box, just as John's demo is on of Yellow Submarine's on the Revolver box. So that would have been a nice thing to add, but they didn't. So
Mm.
what should we start with, the audio or the video?
Audio.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at volume four, and Kit, do you want to start with telling us what your general impression of it was and what you focused on the most now that you've, had some time with it?
Sure. Yeah. You were mentioning, Alan, kind of missed opportunities when it came to the series. And I kind of feel like that with Anthology 4. There's a lot that's been previously released, on a lot. I mean, a lot on previous box sets, on the 63 bootleg
Yep.
recordings, that came out for what, 10 minutes or something on iTunes years ago. Um, that disappointed me that there was so much on there that had already been released, which I guess begs the question of, who is who is this really meant for? The set, because there has been so much that us hardcore fans would already have, and yeah, you could argue it's nice to have it all on one collection, but I just was a bit disappointed. However, there are some. Um, well, sort of previously unreleased. We'll say that. We'll say that. That's on here. That, and I don't know if we want to go through the highlights yet, but I focus mainly on those, and there were some nice outtakes and so forth that I'm glad that they've released officially. But on the whole, I would say, gosh, you've got more stuff in the vault. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Why didn't you include it? Make it a true, new collection instead of pulling stuff off the Revolver set, the
Yeah.
Sergeant Pepper box set. That part kind of annoyed me. So I think that's a good way to describe how I feel about it, like you were referring to, Alan, is missed opportunities.
Missed Opportunities is Apple's middle name. It should
Yes,
be their slogan.
for sure.
Yeah. Darren?
Yeah, exactly what Kit said, and then some. I think the breakdown was there are 36 tracks on Anthology 4, and it clocks into 2 hours. 36 tracks, only 13 are previously unreleased. So you got 23 songs that we've had, as Kit pointed out, excuse me, that you know, I could see if they had to repeat a couple, or if there were a couple of really can't misses that um, they want to include again to flesh out the story. But just roughly two-thirds of Anthology 4 stuff that's out there, granted, scattered around on box sets. Um, in a way, this kind of serves as a sampler of
Yeah.
some of the box sets that are out there. Um, Only two recordings from the bootleg recordings, 1963. First two songs on Anthology 4 are from those. that was made available digitally. Kit mentioned them just now. If you're going to repeat things, give us more of those.
Hmm.
Because I'm sure the majority of Beatle fans don't have or never realized
They have
that they were
reissued.
available.
They've
So
reissued it now, and they've reissued it in Apple's lossless format, ALAC. So you can now get it in better quality than when they originally released it.
originally put it on.
Oh,
I
Yeah,
mean, I hate to be a caveman, but in my mind, I'm like, if it's not on vinyl or on a CD, I'm not seeing it here.
yeah.
mhm.
Um, but but still, it would have been that would have been something to dig into and repeat tracks, a lot of them. But I mean, there's an entire side five of Anthology 4 is all previously released takes off the Let It Be and Abbey Road box sets. Side 6 is the three new songs. So that they actually didn't even come up with enough to completely fill three LPs. Free as a Bird, Real Love, Now and Then. That's side 6
Mhm.
of the if you're going with the vinyl anthology. The fourth side of Anthology, you get the instrumental take 4 of Hey Bulldog, which we've never had before,
Right.
which is cool.
Mhm.
But then the rest of side 4 are all off the White Album 50th anniversary box set. So, there's two different ways of looking at it. Treated as sort of a sampler of these box sets that are out and all of this material kind of collected together in one place. Is that important to you, or are you like a stickler for two-thirds of this album have been released already? What's the point? It's a money grab.
Yeah.
I don't feel that strongly about it being a money grab, but I just question the way they did it. And it's also, if you think about it, kind of awkward in that Anthology 1, which has been remastered and is available again. Anthology 1 has just beginnings to what? Some point in 1964,
Mhm.
65, 64. Anthology 2 handles the middle period, later years, or Anthology 3. And then 4 goes back and sums it all up all over again. It just seems like you went chronological through 3 double albums, and 4 pops up and is a mishmash of the whole history. So,
Yeah.
again, I don't want to be offensive to anyone at Apple or anything or Universal, but it doesn't just seem like it doesn't seem well thought out, especially taking into consideration that 2 years ago, the red and blue albums were reissued,
Mhm.
which to me seems even more pointless now,
Yeah.
because it was clear that those were done as a vehicle to give us Now and Then.
Right.
You're going to tell me they did not have Anthology on their drawing board in 2023?
Mhm.
I'm sure they knew they were doing something with it Now and Then. And this release of the anthology this year, that makes a little more sense. But hey,
Mm.
when it all comes down to it, it's Beatles. Um, Issues that you might have with it are kind of nitpicky that people like us come up with. Uh, they're well presented. The music you can't beat. So
Yeah.
if you want to just get 4, get it individually, get all the box sets, or stop complaining and just don't buy any of them. That's. I think that'll do it.
Okay, so Ken.
Now for me, now that I'm not getting any more service from Universal or Apple now after that.
First of all, Alan, if you could, you should try and talk a little closer to the mic because you're much softer than the rest of us.
Mhm.
Sorry,
Okay?
I can even
Okay.
turn it up
There you go.
Okay.
if I can remember which dial I am.
Okay.
Okay.
Even right now, it's better than it
Yeah.
was before.
Okay.
It's a big
Okay.
difference there. Anyway, so I just did the other day a show on the anthology with Al Sussman and Bruce Spicer and Steve Marinucci, and one very important point that Bruce in particular wanted to bring up is, and this is going to be a running theme on lots of podcast shows, Who are you aiming this to?
Yeah.
Right.
When the Beatles Anthology first came out in 1995, yeah, there were the hardcore fans that were really digging this, but it also introduced the anthology to a whole new generation of fans, brand new fans. And I think maybe the mindset of Universal and Apple and Disney is that they're trying to do the same thing now, 30 years later, because a lot of the hardcore fans that bought it in 1995 are not going to care that much about getting volumes 1 through 3, even though some of the songs have been remixed. I really, have to listen far more carefully to everything in volumes 1 through 3
Me
to
too.
notice all the differences. I think there's a big difference in volume 1, which we might get to later. But I think that that's who they're aiming this towards. And one person wrote into my YouTube channel saying that this was really targeted towards not the hardcore fans, but newer fans or more casual fans who also didn't buy all the archival box sets from Sgt. Pepper through Revolver. So getting the new tracks, the formerly unreleased tracks on Volume 4 is obviously a plus. And then getting something that's sort of a best of from the archival box sets for the albums, some of the best stuff from there. Maybe it's a way of drawing them into everything else, all making them wanting to get the archival box sets for all the Beatles albums. So maybe, that should be a key issue when we talk about these things,
Hmm.
instead of just, the first generation or second generation fans who buy everything, who want everything that's unreleased. Um, it's extremely important, as I've said many times, to keep getting young listeners. For the Beatles legacy to continue and for their catalog to thrive, you can't just rely on the same people that grew up with them in the 60s and 70s. If they get older, eventually they'll die off. You have to find new projects to introduce them to the Beatles.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it's 8 days a week, the film, or Beatles 64, or whatever it is,
And
you have to be thinking about that.
you reported to us on the chart success of the anthology. So
Right.
would you say that that shows that their theory is working?
No,
Right. I wouldn't
I
either.
just,
So, they could at least cater to, the people who are buying them, who got them down to, 148 or whatever it came on, is basically us. And but it's not what we want. We're buying it because we buy everything they put out. But in a way, it becomes abusive, you know, because what we really want is other stuff. And they know exactly what we want because we're here saying it constantly, and every other podcast is saying it constantly, and people online are saying it constantly, and they know it, and they don't want to market things to the hardcore fans. And I think that's insane. You know,
Hmm.
um, here's the thing, when we talk about worrying about, offending someone at Apple. Um, when I was at the Times, I reviewed the first BBC thing in 1994. And basically, what I said is, you know what? It's nice that they're finally putting out a 2 disc set of this stuff, but on bootleg, there's at least a dozen at the time, and now it's more like 25 discs of this stuff. And my editors kindly illustrated the review with all bootleg covers. Um, Bizarrely enough, the Capitol promo person took the bus in from Jersey City with my editor and went up to him and actually said, it's not fair having Alan review these things because he knows the stuff.
Hmm.
But then,
Shame on you.
yeah, yeah, what do I think I'm doing? So then a year later, I went to London to do those anthology interviews. And while I was there, one of the people at Apple came up to me and I neglected to mention that in this review of the BBC set, I said, Apple is really a bad conservator of the Beatles' legacy. And someone came up to me at Apple and said, did you once write that Apple is a really bad conservator of the Beatles' legacy? And I said, well, you know what? I like the anthology. You're obviously on the right path, but I'll tell you, if you keep putting out stuff like you've done until now, I'll say it again. So here I am saying it again.
Yeah.
And a fist fight broke out.
Okay.
What?
A fist fight broke out?
No, no, they just, they took it.
Well,
And did
I
you get
would
any
like
more? Did
good.
you get any service from them anymore?
Yep.
Okay.
So there, Darren.
Yeah.
Good.
There you go.
But let me add something to that. Now, I know how you feel, Alan, and a lot of fans feel that they should just put out everything that we want.
Mhm.
Okay? I'm the same way. I don't think there's anything out there, no matter how bad a performance it may be, audio wise or video wise, nothing can tarnish the reputation of the Beatles ever. But what should be more important, satisfying all the people that were loyal fans in the very beginning, or whether or not 50 years down the road or 100 years down the road, the Beatles' music is still going to sell? Whether it's the core catalog, whether it's that or outtakes of their songs or whatever, this is something that needs to be considered because there's so much music from the past. As a very frustrated radio person, I know it's not just the Beatles. There's a lot of music from the past that doesn't get played anymore.
Yeah.
That's wiped off the map like it never happened. In order to keep the Beatles music thriving, you still have to look at those younger people. And instead of just looking at the Billboard charts, which I'm the most guilty of, look at Spotify, look at YouTube. Are they getting a lot of streams? What are the numbers for that? Because if Here Comes the Sun got 1 billion streams, maybe part of the reason is because of all these releases that have come out.
Or maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Of course, you're going to take the opposite view, but
Yeah, when you
you
say
have to.
when you say, we want them to give us everything we want, yeah, and of course we do. How about looking at it this way? We want them to treat us like every other major artist treats their fans, like Bob Dylan treats
Mhm.
his fans, like Jimi Hendrix treats his fans, like even, and Pink Floyd. There are lots of bands who put out really, really good archival boxes. Dylan is up to volume 18 of
Yeah.
his bootleg series, you
Right.
know. And plus there was that one time when you bought like the very big 1965, 66 studio outtakes that basically was all the studio outtakes, which is exactly what we want from the Beatles. They said, by the way, since you bought all of the studio outtakes, we're going to send you absolutely free a download code for you to download every single live performance of his from that period.
Wow.
That is treating the fans well. you
Mhm.
know and I don't think Dylan's sitting there wondering, well, I don't know if people are still going to listen to like a Rolling Stone if I don't put out more and more compilations of exactly the same stuff I've already put out.
I wonder
Right.
if, yeah, I,
This is a
you
good
know,
argument, but I see both sides.
yeah, I wonder if part of this is, from the success of the one compilation. Now, this is obviously
Mhm.
before the
Mm.
streaming era and everything, but I mean, I know a number of my friends who were not big fans. As much as I tried to convert them, they bought that collection.
Mhm.
I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people bought it, and it was, I think it still wasn't the number one selling album of the decade. I mean,
Yeah.
It's
so
their biggest selling album.
yeah, and of course that's a compilation of stuff that's been released many times before. Ah, there you go, there you go.
Yeah, it's
Got the hat. Oh, I didn't plan this at all. But I'm wondering if they're thinking, well, maybe we could repeat that somehow. That we can still attract younger fans. Um, look what happened with the one CD. Well, except I just think times have changed.
Yeah.
That
And
was in
also,
2000.
that was,
Yeah.
and it was a single
Also,
disc, and you could, okay, when one came out, I treated it with absolute derision.
Hmm.
I admit, when One Plus came out and they also gave us all the videos, I
Yeah.
didn't treat that with derision because that seemed to be the best of both worlds. You're giving people the hits that they, okay, fine, but you're giving us the promos that we've only been able to collect on bootlegs. So that's good. But
Hmm.
the anthology, I just don't know really. Yeah, everyone is asking who is this for, and everyone is also saying it's not mainly for us. I mean, I enjoyed it because it is what it is, and it was an interesting box set when it came out. It was an interesting video when it came out. I liked it as it was. I think on the video, the quality is better now than it had been. I mean, I've done some direct comparisons with the DVDs, and the DVDs look a little blurry now compared with new stuff. But
Yeah.
but then there is the removal of the 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Mhm.
So, you know.
Yeah. I think they could have
but some,
probably scaled it back, scaled this whole anniversary reissue back by putting the documentaries as they were released in 95 on Blu-ray.
Hmm.
Improved picture, all of that, which they did. Put them out on Blu-ray because they have never been out on Blu-ray. And then devise some sort of companion album, even if you packaged it as being the best of the anthologies, which they sort of did. Isn't that the the Tomorrow Never Knows album, which was only made
right.
available digitally?
Yeah.
But there are like extremely expensive vinyl copies of it floating around out there. They kind of did that already. Put Tomorrow Never Knows that you have one. Tomorrow Never Know. Put that out with a different title. Maybe add more material to it as a sort of sampler, or single out unreleased tracks. Not Guilty. Um, What's the New Mary Jane? The things that were appearing legally for the first time when they came out on the anthologies. Um, Give us clean versions of some of the early tracks because I never really liked when it was almost like a radio drama, radio documentary with the overlaps and the talk up segues, that were at the beginning of Anthology 1, you know.
Yeah.
Give me Cry for a Shadow without narration over the intro. Um, then that could have been a single or double disc anthology, the anthology of the anthology, to go with the Blu-ray release with improved picture and move on to Rubber Soul box set.
I think that
The
album was called Sessions.
I
That was
think I think the four of us and so many people who do podcasts and watch this show, we all want to be on Apple's board because
I
we all
think.
have our own ideas of what could work and
yeah.
there's a huge difference, by the way, between when the anthology came out in 1995 and today.
Oh yeah.
When it was on television, it was on ABC where everybody could watch it. There was all the hype around Free as a Bird.
Hmm.
We didn't have anything like that with this 30th anniversary. Yes, it's on Disney Plus. It's nice to watch it. You got to pay for the streaming. Um, but it's also on demand, so you can watch it whenever you want. So that's also a plus. But, it's I would like to see a way that Apple and Universal can please both the hardcore and the new fan. Address them both. Maybe every other release could be for the hardcore fan and every other release could be for the new fan. Because no matter what, something like the Beatles Anthology and the Beatles 1 is the most important release the Beatles put out of this millennium because it turned on a new generation to their fans, and you need something like that, something that big. If something like the Beatles 1 came out today, I don't think it would do anything like it did in the year 2000. So you got to find a way with the way that music comes out, how people listen to it, how young people listen to it, for them to discover this music.
It's
Um,
funny is that because one was sort of an expanded redo of 20 Greatest Hits.
Yeah.
it was.
15 years later, 20 Greatest Hits came out. It was like, oh, no, you don't edit Hey Jude.
Right.
Mhm.
And I put it back. I've since, as a collector, have purchased it, but when it came out, it was like, what have we stooped to? But they were just 15 years off on getting it right with one, and then starting a little bit of a trend where other labels would do similar things with their artists. There was an Elvis One album. There was, I forget who else, get all the big hits on one
Mm.
disc. Um, but yeah, I hear what everyone is saying, and I am sort of in the middle because as a fan, I love the stuff, and it gives us another way to hear it and experience it. On the other side of the coin, maybe you should put me on your board, Apple, and I'll help you along with the next batch of things. I'm wondering about the timing of Now and Then, the redo of the Red and Blue albums, Anthology now, and the change at the top of Apple. And Jeff Jones
Jeff
Yeah.
Jones.
abruptly out at Apple. And I
Mhm.
don't recall the name of the new head of Apple, but the way Anthology and the Red and Blue albums were presented, I wonder if there's a little maybe office politics going on in how those were presented, and I don't know.
I wondered the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we all love the stuff. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't, it's just that we feel badly served by Apple. We've all been sitting here for a couple of years now waiting for a Rubber Soul box,
Mhm.
or any of the boxes of the albums that haven't been done yet. Um, and that's even knowing that ultimately they'll do them again and add other tracks. It's sort of like everything is a teaser now. Um, but anyway, so I think maybe we should go around and pick some of the tracks on volume 4 that we found particularly interesting.
Who goes first?
First.
Um, we'll do it in the same order. So, Kit.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, as I said, I was mainly interested um, in the stuff that hadn't at least, officially been released before. And there were some nice highlights. For example, I liked Take One of I Need You. It sounded very different. It almost sounded more like a completely unplugged kind of version, which I liked. That's not a bad thing at all. I like the version with the pedal electric guitar, the backing vocals. But this was kind of a nice stripped down version. I like George's voice on here. I think it's
Yeah.
strong. You can hear Paul kind of figuring out his bass lines in the background. I just think it's a great look at the making of a really you know incredible song. I think this was released on YouTube, but before this album came out. But the Take One of In My Life, wow! I can't believe that was the first take, because John's vocal on this was just beautiful. The backing harmonies are not as prominent as on the final version, but they're almost fully formed. Ringo is rock solid, as he always is. No wind up piano yet, of course, on this version, but John's voice is the star here. I just thought, again, couldn't believe this was take one. Those are a couple. I liked Baby You're a Rich Man, takes 11 and 12. That was kind of interesting. I love um, John and Paul asking Mel for cokes and some cannabis. So they said that was fun.
Yeah.
And love John crying out, "Let's hear some rhythm and soul from London," and this did sound a little more soulful. Yeah, I really like hearing Paul's bass so loudly here. John's vocal, sort of unadorned. His falsetto hit some nice falsetto notes here. I really like this. It sounds a little tougher with John's vocal and that prominent bass line. And I loved how John was clearly having some fun too when he was rolling his R's, singing "You're a Rich Man." That was fun. I like having the rehearsal of "All You Need Is Love"
Mhm.
uh, on CD. I think we've heard some of that before, and it's a rougher start to the final version, but they're rehearsing it. So, of course, strings aren't flawless. They're still trying to work out the arrangement in some cases, but I love this stuff. I love, hearing songs in progress. And finally, the "I'm the Walrus" take 19 with just the strings, brass and clarinet. I mean, what an arrangement. I mean, yeah, we've heard this before, obviously, in the song, but to hear it by itself, what a, what an incredible composition. I mean, it's so avant-garde, and I mean, you really hear that when it's separated from John's vocals and the
Mm.
he who has, that kind of all that. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, it just shows you how, the Beatles were just taking chances like crazy at this point. I mean, it's such a
Right.
whacked out, but it works. I mean, it really works. It fits the song perfectly. So those are some of the highlights for me that hadn't been at least officially released before.
Okay.
Right.
Darren?
Hit them all. Really.
Yeah, babe.
Kids
Sorry.
highlights. It's funny. Kids highlights were mine pretty much.
Mhm.
What I found myself doing as I was listening was paying more attention to the tracks that were previously unreleased.
Yeah.
Um, and I made a note here. The first note I made was take 6 and 7 of every little thing, saying interesting breakdown of take 6, which I didn't get into details of what I found interesting about it, and I don't recall now. But it was interesting when I was listening to it and taking my notes, and then next, take one of "I Need You" with George's vocal.
Mhm.
Um, for maybe the third singer in the band who was still in a way finding his way. Dead on vocal on take 1
Yeah.
was very cool. Same with "In My Life." Take 1 sounded to me like it wasn't all that far off from being the release take.
Mhm.
Um, I got a kick out of John saying some of the studio chatter is
Yeah.
always fun, hearing them goofing with each other. Um, Before they were to go into "I've Just Seen a Face," John saying, Lonnie's gonna regret not singing this one," meaning Lonnie Donegan, I assume. And then they go into "I've Just Seen a Face," and I'm like, I never really heard this song and thought in terms of skiffle
No.
before.
Mm.
Having Lonnie Donegan's name mentioned just as they were about to go into take 3. Um, the first version, slightly different version of "Nowhere Man," an instrumental, mostly instrumental. Was interesting to see the little subtle nuances that they changed on the finished version. Um, I guess it would have been Jeff Emmerich um, saying "Granny Smith take 7." That I got a kick out of. "Love You Too,"
Mhm.
George's tune from Revolver when it was still being referred to as Granny Smith, and the cannabis resin comment.
Yep.
Um, John is looking for cokes. Paul wants cannabis resin before maybe you're a rich man. Um, and that was it. And I always loved them, and I don't recall which song because I didn't make a note of it here because I've heard it before on one of the box sets. I believe it was "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," where George is asking Mal to get him a a cheese and lettuce and Marmite sandwich and coffee. And no, me with my sense of humor, I'm thinking, from the Bronx and Italian American guy, and picturing the big hero, you know, a Godfather with all the meats that you could think of, right? And here's George ordering um, cheese, lettuce, and Marmite sandwich, and that's why George is thin and I weigh 500 pounds.
Hmm.
But anyway, that has nothing to do with anthology. But um, yeah, so that was you listen to the stuff and even the unreleased stuff in there. It's very easy to not even realize that, oh, I heard this already on the box set 7 years ago.
Mhm.
And it's only like looking at the the readout on the track saying, all right, these were all released before. Listening to it, just relaxing and turning it on and immersing yourself in the music. I mean, again, it's the Beatles. Can't go wrong.
Yep.
You know, in that regard, it's a home run.
Mhm.
Um, then get down in the trenches like we just did and pick it apart. But those are some of my highlights, similar to Kit's. And then, of course, well, I guess it's a topic in itself. The remixes of "Free as a Bird" and "Real Love" um, and having "Now and Then" again. But I loved it so much the first time that having it in another location this was fine with me.
Hmm.
But anyway, so I guess that's basically it.
Mhm.
Me.
Yeah, I think this is basically where Now and Then belongs.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
agreed.
In
it was
fact, what they
definitely.
should have probably done is make Anthology 4 like the other th no, I'm sorry. I take that back. Oh no, they could have if they wanted to really leave things alone. Purists want things left as they were, and do a remaster and add Anthology 4 with Now and Then at the beginning. Or remove a beginning from the beginning of Anthology 3 and put Now and Then where it was originally targeted for.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, if you're going to
you
mess
know.
with the order of the first three, then you might as well just weed all of these into those
Chronological.
chronologically because it's kind of weird having
Yeah.
I think you already said having a totally
Yeah.
chronological first three volumes.
Yeah, you get three volumes that are going era, 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 and then the fourth volume is let's go back to the beginning really quick.
Yeah.
Go through the
Hmm.
Yeah.
Is a little, yeah, abrupt. Yeah.
So Ken?
Um, Ditto on what Kit and Darren have said. Um, my favorite track of all is definitely Baby You're a Rich Man. The first
Yeah.
time I heard that, not only with the studio chatter that we mentioned, it's just that they sound like they're having a ball with the song. They're really enjoying each other's company. You can hear Paul towards the end singing the song, you know, almost like solo. His voice sticks out so much, and he's really enjoying it. And like Kid said, John saying, "Baby, you're a rich man," a few times. And it goes on and on and on. And I wish that they would keep going longer.
Mhm.
And I just love that version for that reason alone. Um, you mentioned "I Need You." I find that really interesting, in part because take one was much faster than the version that they eventually settled on. And a lot of these versions are just the singer singing alone with no backing vocals and not even double tracked.
Right.
And you notice a big difference when it's just single tracked and it feels even livelier that way. I do live in my life, like you guys have said. It could have gone out just like that, except that it didn't have the George Martin piano solo in the middle. He didn't have the harmony vocals too. But John's vocal was close to perfect as far as
Mhm.
I'm concerned on take one. I really liked hearing every little thing because at this stage they hadn't come up with that riff. Da 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 da. Da. Just went right into the song. Just interesting to hear what hasn't been developed yet. Tell Me Why was a lot of fun because they're working on the harmonies in the very beginning. And at one point, after they have to stop the song because it's not working out, and Paul says, I think it's to George, "You made a mistake." He said it like that. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And so just the whole process of them working out the song and hearing what they were doing there on Tell Me Why. Um, I like hearing what else? I think it's nice to hear I've just seen a face, as Darren said, because it's also much faster, just like I Need You is faster. And yeah, it does have that skiffle kind of feel. So at some point they had to really change that, slow it down a little bit, although it's not a slow song. I find that interesting. Um, and like Kid said, definitely I Am the Walrus, the backing tracks. One of the things that I'm appreciating, not only with the anthology, but with the archival box sets for the albums, is when they just take the work that George Martin does,
Yeah.
like what they did with Something on the Abbey Road box set, and you just heard the strings, which you normally wouldn't even pay that much attention to because you're so wrapped up in the song that you don't realize all the work that was put into it. Same thing with I Am the Walrus. It's
Yeah.
like a work of art without even hearing the melody and the vocals or anything. Who else could have done that for the Beatles other than George Martin so well? Exactly what these songs, what it was called for. Um, and the other thing that I'd like to say about Volume 4 is despite the fact that so much of it came from the previous releases, it really is an enjoyable listen all the way through. It flows very well from song to song. I also noticed that even though the first two tracks are from the 1963 bootleg recordings, Money is interesting because it doesn't have the piano part from George Martin. So it's an even more raw, if you will, recording, and it rocks even more to me.
Mhm.
So sometimes just removing one instrument can make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only real disappointments for me, well, I Will was a disappointment because it was
Yeah.
all very short. It's cute, it's
Yeah.
fine,
But that was from the
that
White Album box.
necessary.
Yeah, that was a weird one to include.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine on the White Album box, but
Yeah. Um, I didn't think that was worthy of it. The songs that they picked from the archival albums are some of the ones that I would have picked.
Mm.
I mean, Got to Get You Into My Life is one of my all-time favorite of all these outtakes because you hear it with the I Need Your Love part that they developed there. And we talked about this when Revolver came out, Alan,
Yeah.
especially that there's that riff in there, which is just like Paperback Writer, which they used and Got to Get You Into My Life. So Paul was working that at the time. And just interesting to see how these songs are developed. Um, yeah, I think most of the Love You Too is fantastic. I know it was from the Revolver box set, but to hear George play the sitar, keep going on the sitar, that's another thing. Like Baby You're a Rich Man, keep going. It's a disappointment when they finally stop, but just to hear George play more sitar on a record is
he was great on that
Yeah.
yeah,
too. I'm listening to him going, I guess he'd be considered still a novice at that point on this difficult instrument, but he was damn impressive what he was playing.
yeah. And we also mentioned when the White Album box set came out, Good Night was a big highlight. Hearing the
Yes.
Beatles singing that all at the same time, harmonizing. How great was that? That was definitely one of the best highlights from the anthology series. So I think they made some very wise choices from the albums. I'm sure all of us would have preferred two discs of all unreleased stuff, but it's still a very enjoyable listen. And
Mhm.
as I said on my other show, just for Baby or Rich Man, it was worth paying the money.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. That's how I felt about that.
Yeah. I started out listening to only the new stuff.
Me too.
Just made a playlist of that and just listened to that. And it was only subsequently that I thought, well, I probably should hear the whole set. And I agree with you. It really is. It does play well, and it does have a lot of the best tracks from the box sets. Um, uh, my favorites are pretty much the same as everyone else's here. With Walrus, I think it ends kind of abruptly. I mean, I think those string parts continue a little, rising.
Right.
I don't know
Mhm.
why it stops when it stops.
Hmm.
Um, because there's more on the released disc, you know. Um, because otherwise, I mean, if they had given you the whole thing, um, and I would have liked to have I would have liked to have heard how it actually ended, how the orchestra breaks down once they stop and all that. But also, once you have this a good stereo mix of just the orchestral stuff, and we already have the basic take. And the entire Shakespeare play is out there. You can get
Hmm.
that broadcast. That means that we would be able to make a remix of I Am the Walrus to substitute for the Pig's Dinner that came out on the Blue album.
Huh.
And which, by the way, is included on, I don't know if we haven't talked about this, but they put out soundtracks to the video anthology for every three episodes. There was a streaming or downloadable anthology soundtrack, and they included the Blue album "I Am the Walrus," which I found very disappointing. But anyway, yeah, I'm the Walrus one. Baby or Rich Man, I think we all agree is the centerpiece of this set.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has everything. Like, because the studio chatter for Beatles recordings is like, it's like an extra special prize, because hearing them talk about stuff either about the arrangement specifically or just joking around, it's just great to hear. And Baby You're a Rich Man, has plenty of that. And like you say, it really sounds like they're enjoying it. And it's kind of an unusual song. It's not like they're, sitting around playing I Want to Hold Your Hand or, for a long time. This is a weird, weird song, and they're really into it. I love that. Um, and yeah, I've just seen a face, Nowhere Man. I mean, it's great hearing all of these sort of embryonic versions of these songs, and that sort of is what I kind of thought the point of the original anthology was, to let us hear songs on the way to becoming the songs that we know and love. Um, so, it's great that they gave us a little sprinkling of new new tracks. Would have been great to have two actual albums of new tracks, but I hope they make it up to us when they finally get down to business and put out the Rubber Soul box, the Help box, the Hard Day's Night box, and I don't know if they're going to combine Please Please Me in with the Beatles, but those boxes too.
Oh.
Okay, you've had your fun, now give us the stuff.
And I'll tell you that what we've been commenting on the studio chatter. Only the Beatles could make lunch orders sound fascinating. I
Yeah.
mean, you're listening to their sandwiches, like, wow, this is great. Like
Yeah,
they're just ordering sandwiches.
and actually, before this stuff and other instances of them ordering lunch came out, when it used to be that the only lunch orders that we had were from the Let It Be tapes.
Right.
Um, you remember Melvin Records? Melvin Records was once going to put out an album called The Beatles Order Lunch, and now they really could, because we have lunch orders from all through the the sessions. But
Take my money now. Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I guess we should devote some time to the video as well, which did a little at the beginning, but specifically episode 9. Um, was everyone satisfied with episode 9? Did it meet your expectations, starting with Kit?
Oh boy, I sound like the Debbie Downer of this this episode in some ways, because I mean, to me, it just was basically, with some exceptions, but a compilation of a lot of the EPKs that came out at that point. And some of them, I'm sure. I mean, I remember as they were showing some of them, like, okay, I remember this footage they played on VH1 back in the day, and so that part of it, I just thought, oh, come on, give us some more footage of, maybe outtakes of the interviews, which they gave us a little teaser with that. There was a funny one at the very beginning with Ringo. They were about to interview him, and Paul was kind of messing around on the drums and the back of him, and Ringo made, some comment, and Paul, pretends to cry, and it's like, give us more of that stuff. I mean, I really thought those interactions were more fun, and of course, I was hoping for more behind the scenes footage from the recording sessions of Real Love and Free as a Bird. They gave us some a little taste of it, but like I was thinking about in the anthology, I remember there was a when they were talking about the Deco audition, and they played a little bit of Besame Mucho, and you saw, I think it was Paul and George. I'm not sure if Ringo was with them too. All of them saying in present day, cha cha boom, and and I
Hmm.
was hoping that might show up somewhere, like an extended version of that in the extra episode. No, no, it really didn't. And so I just felt like I wanted a bit more insight into the recording sessions of the song, the Free as a Bird, and what about some more footage from the aborted Now and Then sessions? I would have loved to have seen that, because the rest of it just kind of came off like what they were, which was interviews promoting the series, and so that part, hate to say it again, another missed opportunity in my view, but it was okay. I mean, I'm not saying don't watch it.
Yeah.
But could have been a lot more insightful.
Hmm.
Darren?
You've got your mute. You're muted.
You just do that. All right. Some people want me to actually have a mute button on me in real life. So I'm sure that got some folks excited. Sorry about that. I will admit, I was very quickly putting in my dinner order.
Oh, well, but you
That's
should have had your mic on. We love that stuff.
And then right on cue, actually, right on cue, you start talking about the food orders in the studio, and I thought to myself, missed opportunity, Darren.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I enjoyed. It's funny. I enjoyed the beginning of part four. I went into part four, part nine. I went into it having heard some folks refer to it as a tear jerker or with tear jerking moments.
Hmm.
And the way it started, it seemed like it was going to head that way. I enjoyed hearing a little bit of the backstory about the fact that they were talking about doing a documentary on their history from almost as soon as they broke up.
Yeah.
Interview segments with Neil Aspinall talking about the Long and Winding Road documentary. I don't think I was aware of the fact that as early as 1970, Neil Aspinall was thinking about putting something together to tell the Beatles story, and that was the Long and Winding Road, which in time morphed into the Beatles Anthology. Um, so seeing the meetings that I'm sure were just, again, they were teasers, but seeing them getting back together again in the same room with the wives for
Yeah.
probably a meeting. It was probably the first time in who knows how many years George, Ringo, and Paul were in the same room. You wanted more of that,
Yes.
more of the discussion about what they were thinking of doing with the anthology. Um, and so that was kind of pointed at the beginning, but as it wore on, it kind of, all right, the emotions calmed down and we're getting a little insight on the new songs. It was fine. It was nothing, you learned a few things, some great footage, great moments seeing the three older Beatles together with plenty of acknowledgments to John. But it was, it didn't have me sitting on the edge of my seat. Um, as a nice coda to the whole anthology, it was fine. I enjoyed it. And it was a little interesting to see that you were essentially getting the behind the scenes of the documentary that went behind the scenes
Yeah.
um, at the end. So, I thought it was fine. It was, I have much more of an issue with the fact that the original was cut down as much as it was. I didn't realize till Alan pointed out we lost 2.5 hours
Yeah.
of footage. That was a bigger deal. That would be a bigger deal to me than whether or not part nine, you know, uh, moved me a great deal. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, it was interesting. It was not like,
Riveting.
yeah, it wasn't the most riveting thing, and it wasn't earth-shattering.
Right.
For me personally, I always enjoyed seeing the segments when they would gather at Paul's studio, Hog Hill Mill. And I never actually had a chance, typical Darren, of sharing photos and stories on Facebook. But I went to that mill last summer and was outside the building where you can walk around the grounds somehow of the, I mean, right here, team. Get this rock, boom, off the window. That's how close I was. And imagining in my head pretty much everything McCartney recorded, I think, starting around Pipes of Peace, I think, or Tug of War were done in that studio. But thinking about the scenes with George and Ringo, with joining Paul, and I'm like, it happened right here. That was kind of cool. Now seeing it again
Yeah.
after I've been there, um, it was nice. So for on a personal basis, but um, yeah. So again, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They didn't knock you on your behind, but it was a nice coda to the whole thing. Um, I don't have much more enlightening, uh, enlightening to say about that, but
So then on to
So,
Ken.
so Paul's people are probably watching this right now and saying, "So you were the guy that was driving up to the
well, I
studio."
tell you the truth. No, it's funny you should say that because when we did this, it was my wife who lived in Wales for a while, and is much more up on what's the doings, comings, goings, and the do's and don'ts of the UK. She drove because I would probably kill both of us within 5 minutes driving on what is still seems to be the wrong side of the road for me. So she's whipping around, and I'm following a map that I kind of drew up myself, and to get there, and there is no restriction. It is actually a, I don't know if it's accurate to refer to it as a nationally recognized walking path that cuts directly across this hill. It's literally a hill, and there's the windmill on top of this building. And I doubt very much the locals are in the dark about who owns it and what is in that building, but there's nothing stopping us. My wife was the one saying, "Come on." She's opening the gate. We can't go up there. No, yes, you can. See the sign? I'm like, yeah, it says get out. No, it doesn't say get out. You can. So, that was pretty crazy. At one point, we get to the about as high, about midway point, I'd assume. Um, of course, me being in this incredible shape that I'm in, I was needed an oxygen tent by the time I got to the top of the hill. And I hear dogs coming, and I'm like, oh my God. Paul's sicking the dogs on us.
That's right.
But it was just some locals walking around going, they're very pleasant. And who owns this? Oh, no, tell me. I don't know. But anyway, off the topic there. I didn't mean to, but um,
So anyway,
so as we were saying, Anthology is out.
yes, episode 9, I really enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I wasn't exactly weeping while I'm watching it, but it was emotional to me. I kind of look at it in a different way. I like looking at the dynamic between the three of them and seeing how they interact with each other. I think I might spend time on that
Hmm.
more so than
Yeah,
what
good
they
point.
say. know,
Good point.
and just you know, to my observation, it seemed to me that, Ringo was happy just to be with his friends, they're
Mm.
his brothers, as he said many times. And George is happy that they're doing this, but he's doing it because it's the thing to do, and it's great to see him with Paul and Ringo. But Paul is definitely gung-ho about the whole thing. And it comes across that way to me. He's very much involved. And when they're jamming together and it's Paul taking the lead vocal and George is by his side and he's strumming along and he's okay with it, but it's like Paul this seems to be in charge. Even if he's not in charge, he appears to be in charge. And you've heard Paul say sometimes um, that he could be overbearing, but he didn't realize it at the time. He would say, "Do I really come over to people that way?" Well, you watch him here, and you really get the feeling like he's running it. Even though the three of them are working on it together, but it's fascinating to see Paul and George opposite each other with guitars and trying to work out a song, even if it's only for a few seconds. That's what I enjoy the most when I watch these things. As far as information, I didn't know the story about Mal Evans slipping uppers in the tea for George Martin and for Jeff Emerick. That kind of surprised me that Mal would do that. Um, I found it interesting. You may not make a big deal about this, that George said at the very beginning, it's very smart that we waited till now to do this. You would have thought, well, maybe closer to the time when they were together, they could talk about it more freely. Their memories would probably be even sharper, but no, he seemed to think this was the right time for it. Um, and it's nice to see them jamming on Thinking of Linking again, something like
Yeah.
that. Um, I enjoyed, and I've seen it before, of the three of them with George Martin in front of the mixing board,
Yeah.
listening back to Tomorrow Never Knows. Um, I also found it really interesting how it seemed to be extremely important to the three of them that John is represented in these songs.
Yeah.
And, as I said this in my other show that I just did with Bruce Spicer and Al Sussman and Steve Marinucci, that there's a lot of Beatles songs that didn't have all four of them together on it, and they still went out as the Beatles. I even pointed out Here Comes the Sun didn't have John on it. I Mean Mine didn't have John on it, and they're still the Beatles. But it was apparently very important to all three of them that John was on these recordings. And even Ringo was to say at the very end of episode 9, the three of us could go on tour, but it would have to be Paul, George, and Ringo. We couldn't call ourselves the Beatles, and I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people would agree with that. And yet I still have a problem with that in a way because there's a lot of stuff they did where all four of them were not together. So, and there are times when the Beatles collaborated together in their solo careers and it wasn't called the Beatles, but if it was on a Beatles record, if it was just two of them together, it would still be the Beatles. John and George on the Imagine album on 4 tracks, you know, John and Paul are on the Ballad of John and Yoko, and it's the Beatles. So it's a very debatable thing with me. I understand what they're saying, and probably because of their strong emotional attachment with John being so important to the group. But I just found that interesting that Ringo said that. I wonder if Paul, George, and Ringo had made an entirely new song together and John wasn't on it, and it was on the anthology, would anybody be offended if it was called the Beatles?
I don't.
No.
I don't know.
I guess not.
But just interesting that Ringo made that comment at the end. But I think it was a really nice coda. And a lot of people have pointed out that George said something towards the end that, the Beatles live on, that they're a part of us. It's not just they were there in the 60s and that's it, and that's their canon. The music, the memories, they live on with the people that grew up with them, and even the people who, you know, even after John and George are gone now, there's new fans. So it goes on, this legacy. And I like the fact that George pointed that out. That's how he looks at the Beatles and their legacy.
Mhm. Yeah, and actually, you mentioned something that I forgot to mention in my review that I thought far too much was made by some reviewers of this tension between Paul and George in this episode. I mean, as you said, Ken, yes, Paul was definitely the most gung-ho about the whole thing.
Hmm.
And Ringo, as you said, was just happy to be there and just being with his friends and working on this. And George maybe wasn't quite as gung ho as Paul, but I didn't sense there was this real simmering tension between the two, and I read a review where they said that's what really stuck out with episode 9, and that I didn't
No,
think I thought
no.
that was made far too big a deal out of.
In fact, I felt like there were plenty of times where George was sort of explaining, listen,
Mhm.
the 60s were nutty.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're doing this now, but I'm glad we're doing it when we're doing it when we've had a chance to decompress,
Mhm.
Hmm.
you know. And, so, there was no tension that was, unless you wanted to see it, or maybe, you're looking for something that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Well, it
Well,
wasn't there because they didn't put it in, but it
True.
was there.
Mhm.
I mean, I know people who saw the filming of those discussions between the three of them, and they were eh, and I'm not saying that it's like knockdown, drag out stuff. It's just the way they talk to each other that maybe we might mistake as being more tension than there was. But what one thing someone told me once was that yeah, when they're talking about Abbey Road and Paul starts talking about why he wrote she came in through the bathroom window, and that like Ringo and George are both like, oh man, not again, we're gonna have to hear that
hmm.
goddamn,
Ah,
you know, and plus there was the soup fight, which I've talked about before, uh, in the Free as a Bird video, I think it is. You see them get out of George's car, and George has this thing, this big weird canister which he holds up and then puts under his coat. Apparently, they had a fight about who had the best soup recipe. I would love to have seen that.
ah,
I mean, it's not
And
like
I always thought that was a six-pack of beer,
that's what I thought.
no, it was soup.
Soup?
six-pack of soup.
Yeah. I think
That could
Paul
go
and
with the
George
lunch
each had a
seating.
recipe that and so they tested out whose was better, and we never forgot to find out. In fact, we didn't even get to find out that it was
But but
right.
but Alan, what kind of tension is that?
But
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Unless
yeah,
unless it involved, George, this sucks. And I doubt
yeah,
it
yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah. Would like to have seen that. What I would like to have seen as well. I mean, uh, and in a way, it doesn't matter because it's all out there on bootleg video. But all of those things of them playing, like the whole outside session where they play 5 or 6 songs, and the indoor session where they play Blue Moon of Kentucky, and I think there were other things too. I would like to have had a nice stereo mix of them doing those things. I don't know if stereo would
Yeah.
be possible for the outside sessions, but uh, I would like to if it wouldn't have taken that much time, and it almost would have been like having a little Threedles mini album.
Hmm.
Whether they call it the Beatles or not, it's the three of them. They make music together really well, and I thought those things were fun to listen to. I was hoping that those things would be presented intact.
Yeah.
Um, I also would have liked to have seen more of the sessions of Free as a Bird and Real Love, and more about the development of those songs and what went into them, and how
Yes.
they showed a bit of it, and I was happy for what they did show. Um, the other thing is, Oliver Murray, who directed the revamped version of the shorter anthology, says that, well, episode 9, one of the things we wanted to show was how they felt about being Beatles because we didn't get that before. I'm sorry. I got it before. In
Mhm.
episode 8, George does the thing that has been quoted a gazillion times in the last 30 years about how they gave their money and they gave their screams, but we gave our nervous systems.
Mm,
That kind of is almost all you need to know about what at least George felt about being a Beatle. I mean, that says an awful lot about, what the cost to them was
yeah.
of all of this. And much more than that, we didn't really get in episode 9. So I'm not sure why that was, a central thing for him because we A, already had it, and B, didn't get much more of it in 9. Um, but anyway, yeah, I like them talking about making the anthology a bit in 9, even though it was basically promotional. Um, but yeah, I just thought 9 could have been. I had my expectations of it were pretty high, and so I felt a little bit let down by it.
A
Uh,
lot of stuff was glossed over.
Yeah.
yeah, and
No
and
meat
plus
and
there was a lot
potatoes.
of
Yeah.
revamping of what was in the first 8. Talking about things that we've already sort of heard, and
Yep.
that to me seemed like even if it was 15 seconds, it seemed like a waste of time because we already got that. Give us something new. We only
Hmm.
have an hour. You're wasting. Uh,
Mm.
and actually, who knows whether I really feel this or am simply being chivalrous so that Kit doesn't feel like Debbie Downer.
Mm.
No, but I do.
I know you got my back, Ellen. I appreciate that.
So, yeah, do we have any more that we want to say? For me, I think about the anthology as a whole. Um, I've watched the DVD a number of times. I mean, a lot of people have said to me, and then I've read people's comments that, yeah, I watched it once or twice and put it away, but I've watched it a number of times, and every time I've watched it, when you get to the end where they're showing the August 22nd, 1969 film of them out in the field with the hat.
Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, when it gets there, I mean, I've always felt watching the DVDs like an incredible wave of sadness that this
Yeah.
is the
Yes.
end of all that. Didn't feel that in this streaming version. And I was kind of disappointed not to feel it because, they're telling a story that has basically a tragic end. Not tragic in that, they weren't all killed. I mean,
Yeah.
for one of them, that happens much, much later. Uh, but, the fact that they've taken us through this story where they've made this astonishing music that I always say is the zenith of Western Civ. And then they split up, and I understand the pressures and the tensions and the boredom and, whatever it was that they were feeling that made them want to go on to something else, because this is the human condition anyway. But it
Right.
just seemed tragic to me. And when you get to that scene of them standing in the field and you know that like this is their last photo session together,
Yeah. Mhm.
it's just very sad. But in this version, it just was like, okay, yeah, so I guess this episode's ending.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's interesting about
Yeah.
seeing them stand in the field is that, they didn't really know that was the last time they would be together.
Right. Yeah.
But they did not look happy.
No.
Yeah, John hadn't been to Toronto yet. John hadn't come up with the idea of, leaving. I mean, he might have thought about it,
Mhm.
because that's where he was at the time, but it hadn't become a codified thing where, it was less than a month after this filming session, and photo session, he came in and said, "Yeah, I'm leaving the group."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He hadn't decided that yet. So yeah, you're right. I mean, at the time they were still a going concern.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Should we spend just a minute talking about Real Love and Free as a Bird? I don't know if
Mm.
we've just really discussed that before.
Hmm.
I mean, I was really looking forward to those remixes. I mean, I thought this is going to be incredible. And Free as a Bird remix has kind of grown on me. I used to feel like, oh, in a way, I kind of miss that sort of otherworldly quality of John's voice on
Yeah.
that, and I never thought I'd say that.
Right.
Over time, I guess maybe I'm just getting more used to it, or I'm not sure, but I'm liking it a little better. Does this replace the original? No, it doesn't for me. Now, Real Love, that's a different story. I just did not care for what they did with John's voice. I mean, yes, it's clearer, no doubt about it, but it's almost too clear and too upfront in the mix. Really dominates, and at times, I mean, it almost sounded auto-tuned to me, and that could be just part of the Peter Jackson's technology and bringing out the voices as best as they could. But I found it a bit distracting. And I wonder if it was necessary. I mean, sure, the original version wasn't as crystal clear as you can get it now. But, in some ways, maybe that otherworldly quality, as I mentioned, of the original mixes, maybe fit the songs a little better.
I think you're right. When I
Mhm.
first
Yeah.
heard Real Love, I liked the clarity of it. But,
Mhm.
listening to it over and over, John was not a guy who particularly wanted his voice to ring out with clarity because he didn't like his voice. I don't know why. It's an
Yeah,
incredible
astounding.
voice, but he didn't. And so he'd always be doing stuff to it. There'd be ADT, or there'd be just double track vocals, or there'd be re echo, and and
Right.
I think he might have liked that kind of, as you say, otherworldly sound that was partly a function of the lo-fi-ness of the tape, but it worked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, also it was what they were responding to when they were making the record, so it was part of the performance they were recording. So now it's different than what
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
hearing when they made the record. And I think that, I think it was great that they cleaned it up. I
Mhm.
think they then should have done something to it that he might have done to it, either did some kind of ADT or
Mhm.
something that would have done the kind of disguising that he liked doing on his voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
I
Mm.
I fully agree with both of you, and in improving the sound of something. We've talked about things being remixed, the pros and cons of that. In the case of Free as a Bird and Real Love, the the weakness in the audio was the charm of the songs, the purpose of the songs. John, um, on these cassette demos sounding far away or distorted. That was the whole idea.
Hmm.
And it's not like, like we've talked about, it's not like all of them didn't do things like that intentionally over the years. Like Tomorrow Never Knows with Lennon's vocal, and they did kind of suck a little bit of the life
Yeah.
out of the heart and the soul, actually, better when it came to the redo of Free as a Bird and Real Love. I remember when we heard Now and Then for the first time, I said to someone, and it could have been Ken because we were together when we heard that for the first time, I hope they don't do this type of cleanup to Free as a Bird and Real Love. Leave them alone.
Mm.
Maybe Now and Then needed a little extra work from what we've heard about the original tape. Okay, that's fine. But leave these songs as they were.
Hmm.
Also,
Um,
George's guitar in Real Love, they suppressed
yes,
a lot of those
Yeah.
little
yeah.
fills.
Yeah. Good
And
point.
I don't know why they would do that.
Yeah.
I
No
have no
reasoning for it.
idea.
It was
Weird.
like a little later in the song, those bits that George added, they're not there
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
they're buried. That never made sense to me with any sort of remixing.
Yep.
A quality that's so prominent, why bury it?
Mm. See, I've said a number of times, I don't mind if you add something to the mix that you haven't heard before, but don't take something away from it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially,
Exactly.
Or not so much add something to the mix. something that was there already that may have been
Right.
initially buried down. You want to bring it out so we could hear what else was happening in the song. But I know I agree with you. Don't take away.
It's really interesting what the three of you have said there because part of our appreciation of Free as a Bird and Real Love is knowing the limitations of what the Beatles had to work with and what Jeff Lynne had to work with and
Mhm.
trying to find a way to work it out.
Yeah.
And and I always like Free as a Bird, and sometimes it sounded like John's voice was in a tunnel
Yeah.
or something like that, and it's very, very thin on Real Love, but I got used to it that way.
Exactly.
So it's the same problem I have with remixes today of anything for when I'm used to the originals, and I know some improvements can be done, but I have no problem with the originals. But I do like the new Free as a Bird a lot. I like the fact that they boost up the harmony vocals on there,
Mhm.
and that John's voice is more clear. But this is a point about John's voice that I brought up on a few occasions, especially where John's solo music is concerned, because in a lot of these box sets that Sean and Yoko have done, you hear John's voice raw. And if John was that sensitive about his voice, why would you do that? I mean, we love it. I don't have a problem with it being raw. I never did. But there was a reason why those records came out the way that it did. Would you want to hear A Day in the Life with John's vocals being completely raw and no reverb or anything? There
Hmm.
are reasons why those records were made the way that they were. But I do like the new Free as a Bird. I don't dislike it, but Real Love I have a problem with. We talk about George Harrison not getting enough credit for his guitar playing, and very often it's the stuff that you don't hear hear in the music. Certainly in the case of Real Love, you heard it. Those little, those few notes that he would respond to when they're singing the chorus. I mean, that helped to make the song and that helped to make the recording the way that it was. George made a very big contribution, especially the solo in Real Love and Free as a Bird. But I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. I know that Giles Martin has done a number of interviews. I've seen them online. I haven't watched too many of them. I wonder if anyone's addressed this with him, why this was done. So we can ask Giles a lot of questions about
Yeah.
why certain things were done.
Mhm.
Like I
Do
have
we know the extent of, if any, Jeff Lynne's involvement with the new mixes on the two songs, taking also into consideration the health issues he's been dealing with and the end of the ELO tour and the way that went down?
right.
Because I did see somewhere that these new mixes Jeff Lynne either did or had a hand at. Do we also know Peter Jackson's involvement, if anything, on Free as a Bird and Real Love?
It's always been my understanding that Peter Jackson isolated all the tracks and sent them to Giles,
Yeah.
or
That's what
maybe
I.
Giles in this case, and it's up to them to do the remixing. That's how I always understood it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I heard as well, particularly on Real Love. I think, he had to do a lot of work on that,
Well,
apparently.
only one person can actually answer that question, and that's Peter Jackson. So, Peter, if you happen to be watching us right now, calling out to you in New Zealand, why don't you come back on board? We'll have you on Things We Said Today and Talk More Talk
Mhm.
in 2026.
Let's
Every
do it.
opportunity you can, Darren, to bring up Peter and invite him, you do it.
We did,
Absolutely.
we did,
I'll be here.
I guess, get to hear a bit of his Hamburg tape in this anthology. Red Hot, and they played bits of some of the others. I mean, as we know, Peter owns the lowest surviving generation of the Hamburg recordings, so I guess how we heard it in anthology is pretty much as good as it's going to sound. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, so
Which is better. It's definitely
yeah,
better than it was. Yeah.
That's
okay.
one thing Beatle fans really want now, as
Yes.
far as cleaning it up. If
The
you can
Hamburg
isolate
stuff, yeah.
all the instrumentation on Hamburg, the Star Club,
Hmm.
but would Apple want that?
Yeah.
Would it be important to Paul and Ringo and the Lennon estate and the Harrison estate?
Well,
Right.
what Apple wants is inversely proportional to what we want.
That's
So,
for sure.
so we can guess that they wouldn't want it.
Yep.
So,
That's a safe bet.
yeah.
Hmm.
So, anything else?
All right.
Should we wrap
That's all
this
for
up?
me.
It's about 2 hours. So, remember
Lot to
we used to
discuss.
do these shows in an hour? I don't know how we did it.
I don't either.
We were actually just a little beyond the length of Anthology 4 right now.
That's right.
And it's all new.
Yeah. No recycled press kit footage.
Hmm. So should we go around and
Go around. Let's go around. Around and around.
Okay, who wants to start? How about Ken?
I'll start.
Okay.
Oh, let Ken start. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay,
Okay,
first of all, what?
Are you done yet?
Okay.
On my YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio, as I've said, I did a similar show just a couple days ago with Bruce Spicer, Al Sussman, who originally was going to be in this show, but we couldn't work out a time together, and Steve Marinucci discussing the anthology and their thoughts. It's always interesting, even if it's the same topic, hearing different opinions, and you're dealing with another three scholars on the Beatles. So it's great to have the three of them there. Also, I did an interview with Luca Perassi, who has put out so many books now. He's doing it at Ken Womack speed. And his most recent book is on Back to the Egg, the Last Wings album. And that's what we talked about. That album, having two new members added to Wings, and Lawrence Juber, who he offered a very big interview to Luca, which he used in this book, and Steve Holly as well. And the book goes in depth on every single song, also the songs that they recorded before Back to the Egg, including Same Time Next Year. He talks about Did We Meet Somewhere Before, which was used in Rock and Roll High School. The end of Wings, the UK tour of '79, the drug bust in Japan. We go through all that. And Luke is always a great guest to have on. He's written not only the two volumes of this book, which is always by my side, Music is Ideas, 2 volumes of this, where he covers all of Paul's music up until what year now? I think 89, I think it says there. But he's going to be working on that, I guess, at some point again, picking up on that. He wrote a book on Ben on the Run. He wrote a book on Press to Play. He also wrote a book recently on Ringo called I Play the Piano If It's in C. And by the way, I could add this to the news. He did say, it's not the first time that we've heard this, January, he'll have another book coming out. And it's going to be
Jeez.
on the album George Harrison, the self-titled album from 1979. So probably he'll be back on my channel. We should have him here
For sure.
Yes.
today. Also on my website, kenmichaelsradio.com, you always have Beatles trivia there. I have 11 prizes now to pick up, including what I just showed before, the brand new Ivies collection of demos. It's their anthology, Volume 5, and it's called Miniskirts and Rainbows, 19 tracks in all, and that's one of the prizes you can win, as well as Head First, which we mentioned before. And there's my radio show, Every Little Thing, which you can listen to on WFDU's website, WFDU.FM. Go to their archives page.
Yeah.
Was that?
What's that?
I don't know what that was.
What was what? I heard nothing.
Oh, I heard some voices,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
but I often do.
So I'll pick it up. And for my radio show, Every Little Thing, you can go to WFDU's website, WFDU.FM, and type in the name of the show, and you will have the last 2 weeks of shows of what they've been airing there. And I think
My turn. One of those. Yeah.
There it is again.
Yeah.
Is it? Is
That
there anyone?
happened to us before.
Has it?
Yeah.
Once before, there was a mystery voice, but I never heard it.
Wow, that's weird. Yep, it's not coming from my end that I'm aware of. But
So let's try and wrap this up quickly.
yeah, sorry.
All right.
And that's it for me.
Okay, Darren.
All right. Well, you could catch my new radio show, Noises from the Valley, Friday nights from 7 p.m. to 11, every Friday night, 7 to 11. WKZE is located in Red Hook, New York, up in Dutchess County, New York State, at 98.1 FM and also 105.9 FM. And also, you can listen, which is probably the way many of you would be able to listen, is WKZE.com or get their app. And it's Noises from the Valley, 7 o'clock to 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock every Friday night on WKZE. Now, we're recording this on Friday, the 12th of December, 2 weeks from tonight on December 26th. Going to celebrate Boxing Day on Noises from the Valley with the Beatles Christmas messages. I'm going to play them all 7 of them, and a little backstory to all of them. And also maybe even throw a couple of Beatle-related Christmas songs in there as well. So that'll be on the show 2 weeks from tonight. But
Play Magical
listen,
Mystery Tour in black and white.
I will try to figure out a way to do that. So that's 2 weeks. Noises from the Valley, WKZE.
Okay,
Cool.
Kit.
All right. Well, you can check out toppermostofthepoppermost.net. We're dropping new episodes all the time, and we're in August 1965 right now, so you can find out how the Beatles were doing on the charts then, and also we talk about artists who either influenced them or have a direct connection to them that were also on the charts at the same time. So to catch up on all the episodes, just go to toppermostofthepoppermost.net. I'm going to be teaching a new class starting next month. I'll post all the info about it online, but it's the history of 60s girl groups. So it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. And of course, you can find us on, catch up on all the past episodes of Talk More Talk at talkmoretalk.com. And I think that's everything for now. I've got more stuff coming in the new year, but those are the two most important things right now.
Hey. Let's see what I've been up to. I've done some other podcasts recently. I don't usually mention the other ones I do, but because I always forget. But I was on Buskin with the Beatles with Richard Buskin and Craig Bartok about anthology, audio and video. And again, different opinions. I mean, my opinions were probably basically the same, but two other guys, and uh, those were interesting shows. And let's see what else. I just finished a thing for Beatle Fan. Bill asked me if I wanted to write about Paul as an avant-gardist or experimenter. And as usual, what should have been a 1,000-word piece ended up as like a 6,000-word piece. So he's going to split it over the next 2 issues. But it was fun to do because there's a lot of it, but ultimately I began to find, I always sort of say rinse the raindrops as one of his experimental things. But by the time I got there, it was, okay, well, Paul's done a lot of this stuff so much that it is now just part of his standard thing. And is that experimental anymore? It's an interesting question. Anyway, go through it starting with the Beatles all the way through his solo career. So I hope that's a good read. I think Bill liked it, so that's something. Otherwise, you can find me on Facebook, either at Allan Kozinn or Allan Kozinn Remixed. Um, We have a Facebook page, Things We Said Today video podcast. There is also a McCartney Legacy Facebook page. And one of the things we do there is if we find the book is, discounted someplace, we usually say. And I believe volume 2 is still like $12 at Amazon. So if you
Wow.
haven't run out and got it, or you didn't get one for all your friends, you know, that's the way to go. And I think
Christmas is coming up. Christmas is coming up.
that's
Perfect
right.
present.
That's
Right.
right. And I think volume 1 was like $26, so that's like $9 off. So really, you should do it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, what else? You can follow us on Things We Said Today on Twitter at Things We Said Fab and BlueSky at Things We Said Today. And the podcast. I mean, we hope you're seeing it on YouTube, and that if you are, you click like and subscribe. Um, Otherwise, there's the audio version, which you can find on Podbean, and Podbean distributes to everyone else. So we're on Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there. So that's about it for me. So for Ken Michaels and Darren DeVivo and Kid O'Toole, I'm Allan Kozinn, and thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.